Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Sophia, for meeting me today and agreeing to this.
Sorry.
You're very brave. And we've had your son's testimonial, and it's really sort of triggered a lot of questions, a lot of, commendations about how brave he was and how brave you are. So it's so nice for them to actually see the mother as well. So I'm just going to ask you some questions, and please do answer them in the best way that you can. And then the number one is, what challenge were you experiencing with your son, with your teen Musa? Like, what was the challenge for you?
I think the challenge was there was a block, there was a big, huge elephant in the room, and we couldn't talk about it. He just wasn't doing the work necessary to pass his exams. But he spoke about it as though he was going to pass them, etc. But he just wasn't following it through. That's what it was.
Yeah,
that was the alarm bell.
I think you mentioned that you just saw that he was stuck, and it's like he just couldn't get the wheels in motion. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And he found ways of distraction.
Yeah.
So
how did he used to distract himself?
PS5 really. Yeah, primarily PS5 and just watching TV. So anything but doing what he needs to do, and then exhausting himself, and then saying he's tired and that he couldn't get up and do the work that he needed to do.
Yeah. And I'm sure so many moms, can really resonate with what you're saying and really understand it. But what prompted you to think, okay, I'm going to try and get some help for Musa, and I'm going to
Yeah, I think it was the misalignment between not so saying that he's going to do it, but not actually doing it. Time was running out. I realized that my influence was running out. And also I clearly understood that I could not do any more than I could do, than I had done. So I wasn't going to be the one to make the difference. It had to be external.
It's powerful. How did that feel, Sophia? Did you feel guilty? Did you feel like bad on yourself, or did you feel
No.
empowered? Like, okay, I can get help, and I can do something about it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the perspective that you have on coaching and what the work that you do. I thoroughly believe in it. I understand it. I understand the process. So I felt no guilt whatsoever, because at the end of the day, we are all parents. We all make mistakes, and we no matter what, well, even when we think we've got it totally right, we probably haven't. There's always something. And what you get to a point, especially when they're at the age of 15, 16, you realize that they no longer require being told what to do. They require guidance. Then they require a friend. And if you can't be that friend, then find somebody who will. Somebody who you trust, somebody who will give him the right guidance and the right direction. And that's essentially what it was. I felt no guilt whatsoever, because he's turned into a wonderful young gentleman. I'm very proud of him. But we all have something that we've got to overcome.
Yeah,
in any way or form. And that thing was his thing. And it was showing up.
Yeah. And how did it show up? Like you said that he would, do video games and sort of, TV and stuff. Did you see it in terms of his behavior? Did you feel like, okay, this doesn't feel right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like
definitely that, and also the fact that the time was running out. So you can say that you'll do it, but if you've got 2 months and you've got a whole load of work to do for about 10 subjects, then and you're not doing anything, you're just playing games. And the signs were explicitly apparent. It's whether you as a parent feel a bit helpless and think, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to go. Or whether you kind of just take charge and say, right, I'm not making the difference. I'm going to find somebody who will.
Thank you. And I remember that at the time you were saying, I felt like you had left it late. Did you feel that you would have preferred to have done it maybe a month or two before?
Definitely. Because you turned up on my Facebook, and it was a sign, it was guidance. I took it as guidance. But sometimes we take a little bit of time in accepting even the guidance that we receive. So yes, I definitely would have preferred, because then it would have happened a lot quicker. But I'm really pleased that it regardless, that it still did happen.
Of course. And
It's
I was going to
I'm
ask,
grateful for it.
oh, and I was going to ask you, did you try anything before coming to work with me? Because I know obviously you did it, you were giving him as much guidance and wisdom as possible, but did you go to any other professionals before he started working with me?
For Risa, or just in general?
No, for your son, yeah, for
But
him.
no. For Isa, no, never.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, no worries. And then in terms of the work that I did with him, what was the experience like for you? Because obviously we've heard what he said, but what was it like for you, sort of, him being me and him connecting, doing the work together. And obviously you were not in the sessions, but did you feel what was your experience like? Just sort of
I
letting go.
to, yeah, okay, I understand, because it's always a little bit difficult knowing that you can't be the primary source in your child's life. I think it's all about trust and trusting what you do. And because I've had experience of what you do previously and your connection within, there was wholesome trust there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is trust.
Mm.
If you're not sure about which way your son is going to be guided, or daughter for that matter, then there's that fear. But if you don't have that fear, and you know that the source is good, the recommendation is good, and that is definitely a compliment to you, then you can rest assured knowing that it's been taken care of. And actually you can let go of that and feel free that the right thing has been done, and it's been taken care of. That's it.
Absolutely. And I
So
think you're right.
yeah,
It's very sort of, that sort of feeling that, okay, I've chosen the right person, I've asked for guidance, and now, hopefully, things are going to go well. And I think
yes,
just on that note, did you feel like you had enough sort of, was I keeping you in the loop, I guess, as such, did you feel like you knew what was happening? Because
yes,
there,
definitely,
mm,
definitely. I actually, yeah,
yeah,
you informed me all the way. I felt that sometimes when the thing is that I just knew he was in good hands.
yeah, that's so
So
nice.
I was fine with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I
absolutely,
didn't even need to know half of what I got to know, because I
yeah,
knew he was progressively getting better, and he really is calmer. His understanding his emotional intelligence has increased,
amazing. Yeah.
because he's becoming a little bit more self-aware. The way he deals with things has become better. So all over. Yeah.
No, it was so good. And it was so nice that he implements what I teach him. Like there was a few sort of tools and tricks that I gave him for if ever the anxiety comes up just before, an oral exam, French or whatever. And I didn't like hammer it into him, but I gave him a few extra tools and he even used those. So it was so nice that, he was ready, he was open, and he really did want to make a change. And I know lots of teens are not ready and open. Do you have any advice for them? Because they're probably watch too, do you have any advice for those teens who really do want the help but feel, it's not going to work? What
Oh,
is,
that's a difficult one, because
yeah.
normally the nurturing comes from the parent.
Mm,
So,
yeah,
it's having that one-to-one conversation with your child and saying, look, you're saying you want to achieve this, but your behavior isn't following, and there's a problem. So
mm,
I'm going to find somebody, or sit you down with somebody who will identify the problem. Do you want to do that?
yeah,
It's as simple as that. Are you willing? Because
yeah.
ultimately, if you don't get the grades you want to achieve, then that's going to be a detriment to your life and nobody else's,
I
you
know.
know.
I know. And then for my work, I had to sort of dig deep a bit with you and, just so that we were on the same page. And we knew it wasn't just about the grades. The grades is one thing to open doors. And of course you want the best for your child. And he wanted it too. But it's like we did have to go a bit deeper. And you were like, yeah, of course, it's not just the grades. You really had this sort of, you really wanted him to be well and to
Of
have a hero
course,
inside. And,
that's
and
what
then
any parent wants.
exactly. And then having that conversation with you was so nice because, we have to get people onto the right, because I do believe, and it's clear, it's evident, once they've healed and emotionally feel stable, the grades are a natural consequence, aren't they? They'll come and hopefully everything will run smoothly. And I guess there's so many things, but it's like, what do you think the biggest changes then that you can see in your son? And I know before our recording you were talking about that, but what would you say the biggest changes you've seen in him?
His emotional intelligence. He's
Mm,
just his emotional intelligence, his self-awareness, his way of dealing with things. Just generally, he's just, become less resistant, more compassionate, more understanding, more reasoning.
it's amazing. Mm,
Yeah, so there's definitely more of that. But it's always worthwhile doing this with you because,
mm,
as I mentioned before, this kind of work, if you do it in 20 years' time, 15, 10, it's a snowball effect. So whatever the real issue is, it will just snowball.
mm.
So if you do it early, you get rid of the problem and they live a better life, they make better decisions.
Yes,
And this kind of work is essential for everybody in any form or way. If you do it earlier, it's just nicer to see them flourish in the way that you want them to flourish, as opposed to having this looming cloud hanging over them and you just can't work out what the cloud is, but you know it's there.
so hard. And how was that for you? Sort of sitting there and watching him with this cloud,
That was hard. It was frustrating. It was just like frustrating. Please, because he's so intelligent. He's an A-star student
Yes, yeah.
naturally without working too hard. So if he doesn't work at all, you get scared because everybody knows that it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, you have to do some work.
Yes, that's the nature of this world, isn't it?
Yeah.
You
So when
know,
you see your son literally sitting in your room, his room playing games, and it's like, oh no, not interested. Oh, but he's telling me he's interested, but
mm,
his behavior is saying something else. And because I am not one to turn my head to these things, and if it's there, it's there.
mm,
I acknowledged it, I accepted it, and I realized that my hands were tied, that he wasn't going to listen to me. Maybe my voice was the trigger.
yeah.
So, of somebody who's consistently telling him what to do and how to do it. So used a softer voice, a
Oh,
kinder
dear.
voice.
Oh,
It seemed to have
I think it
worked.
helps. It helps for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah,
A
yeah.
little bit of space, to hear advice, a little bit of psychology and a little bit of science, and yeah, it's helpful, I think, to everyone. We all need that.
I
We all
think,
know, we're very
yeah,
strong with our and close with our caregivers, but then, as we know, teens will really push back against them as well because they're the ones. Like I kind of have this saying, there's no one on the planet that loves you more than your mother, and in general, but and I think that's what it is. Sometimes they have to push back. They need a bit of space, and they need to, get their own sort of identity, their own branding.
yes,
So many, there's
yes.
so many layers. There's so many.
Yes, 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 definitely. And also the fact is that what you do is quite good because what you do is you kind of semi-coach the parent as well, which is essential because what happens is that it's not just the child who needs the coaching, it's often that the parent has to look within as well.
Definitely.
And you advising the parent alongside, which is always a little bit tricky. And actually, you've taken your workload on with that, really,
Mm.
because to get a parent who's possibly not ready to accept that they might have something to do with it is really difficult.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
so,
really, it is. There's a lot more
yes,
conversations, but it's really rewarding. And I
it
guess,
very much so, yes.
on
Because
a
if you,
side note, I've kind of included the mum now in the package,
yes,
program,
yes, yes,
just so that she has that as well. But thank you so much.
yeah,
I wanted to know, because watching him and worrying him, and you said, you're worried about the grades, and I guess you were probably worried about, what's his future going to be like,
yeah,
if he
definitely.
doesn't do anything. And I guess now that you're on the other end, you know, would you recommend my programs working with me? Would you recommend that to others?
Yeah, definitely.
I love that
It's
smile.
priceless. It's priceless. It's priceless. It's one of those things that you always find difficult to actually accommodate financially. But actually, there's nothing more important than it. It's actually more important than the education, because you know, if you don't get the mental, that aspect of it right, they never live a wholesome life. They could have a first degree, but actually not do much with it.
You're
So
really burnt out. That's what I've
yes,
noticed. It's like it takes everything out of them just to
yeah,
get out of
yeah.
bed, get
So
to
they
the
can,
desk.
yeah, they can excel in everything you want them to excel, but what they do with it and apply to their own lives depends on what you do. So you know, it's always a little bit difficult to get your head around when you're balancing out the finances, but actually when you get the results and you understand them, you see them, then you realize that actually there was nothing more important than it. So you know,
That's so wonderful. And
yeah.
I love to keep connecting with all my ex students. So I will be keeping in contact and, you know, giving you all these. I like to do these little free challenges. So he'll be involved in that for sure. And I guess just wanted to know, like, if there's any sort of mom out there, because I do have lots who DM me and they're interested. What would you say to them? You know, they're hesitating, they're not sure for what.
Don't think twice. Just don't think twice. Just do it blindly. It's one of those things. It's one of those things you will either do it when you're 16, you'll do it when you're 18, you'll do it when you're 20, if you're wise, and if not, 30s or 40s. So you just got to understand the snowball and how many mistakes you make on the back of those snowballs, and how much then you actually have to recover and uncover if you hit the age of 40. But at some point you will have to do this, so better earlier than later. So better you teach the skills now and just have a very fulfilled and happier life, as opposed to hitting 40, having made all the mistakes with all the regrets, etc., and sitting there thinking, I wish I'd done this when I was 18. So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, you're so sweet, and thank you so much. On that note, you know, we'll close here now, but thank you so much for your time. And I really
You're
hope
welcome.
that
You're
so many
welcome.
moms listening and teens too can feel inspired by what you
Yes.
shared today. Okay, thank you very
Inshallah.
much. Bye now. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.